What do hot stones, John Legend, waiting to exhale, and choo-choo trains have in common? What else? Another episode of Insecure. Hey everyone, this is D, Movieman, fellow cinephile, popcorn addict, and emerging film critic, coming to you with reliable recaps, reviews, and reactions. And today, of course, I'm coming to you all with another episode of Insecure, Season 5, Episode 7, Chillin. Okay? This episode was directed by Amy Aniobi. She is a producer, writer, actress, and director, quadruple threat. Love to see it. Now, this is her first time directing an episode of Insecure, but she has been a writer and producer for the series ever since it premiered back in 2016. She also helped write a couple of episodes of The Misadventures of Awkward Black Girl back in the day as well. So it is safe to say that her working relationship with Issa runs pretty deep, and I am more than happy to see her make her Insecure directing debut with this episode. The theme of this episode is very self-explanatory, very straightforward, literally just chilling, hanging out with friends. Chilling out, maxing, relaxing out, cool, but not shooting some b-ball outside of school. And in keeping with that theme, we see that all the ladies are going to come together to have an evening of relaxation and bonding. And up first, we see Issa preparing everything for the gathering as You and I by Jacob Ogawa plays in the background. We then see Molly, Kelly, and Tiffany all meet up at Issa's place so they can debrief on their plans, which include hot stone massages at the spa and a sit-down dinner in the evening. And then, of course, they have to break out the good stuff and get to puffing. But we all know how Murphy's Law works. So naturally, nothing goes as planned. We find out that a pipe has burst at the spa, so now their appointments are canceled. So since they still have 3 hours until their dinner, they figure, hey, let's just hang out and pregame in the meantime. And to kick things off, Issa suggests that they play Questions in a Hat, despite Kelly's warnings about the power that it has. Then we jump over to Condola's house and we see Lawrence show up to drop off Elijah. And from what we can see, not only has Elijah gotten really adjusted to being in Lawrence's home and, he slept well and all is good there, but it also looks like Lawrence and Condola are in a really good place as well, which I was like, yes. I was so happy to see that because although I appreciated the reality and the honesty of that third episode, it was rough to watch. It was so unhealthy and it was so toxic. So seeing them come together like this, I was like, come on. And I am so here for it. And in keeping with that positivity, Lawrence even offers to help build a shelf that Candola needed help with. Then, jumping back to Issa's, we see everyone playing Questions in a Hat, and we find out some really awkward truths about each of the ladies, including the fact that when Kelly is having personal time, she thinks of Derek. There's a lot I could say about that, but I'll just move along in silence. And most of the questions are pretty silly and pretty lighthearted, but then Tiffany pulls a very specific question. If you could only spend the rest of your life with the last person you slept with, how would you feel? Yikes. Well, of course, for Issa, she's absolutely not sure because things with Nathan and her are definitely up in the air. Issa tells the girls about how Nathan called her inconsistent. They're like, what? Oh my gosh, that's like, oh wow, that's crazy. So clearly, they're on the same page. Then Molly gets a call and she steps outside to take it. And we notice that this is not just a work call. There's a lot of, energy that's happening as she's on this call. And everyone's everyone's just very inquisitive. What's going on here? So, of course, she fills them in and she mentions that considering what happened at the work retreat, everything since that moment has been totally different for the two of them. They used to be very, tense and they used to have this very kind of fractured relationship. But ever since the work retreat, Torian has been checking in on her to see how things are with her mom. And they just seem to have a different kind of energy now, as I previously mentioned. And of course, the ladies all get to clowning. They can't help themselves. But Molly has to admit that she is interested, but she doesn't know how to proceed. I mean, given that they're coworkers, she doesn't know whether or not she should give him the green light. And with perfect timing, John Legend's green light begins to play on Issa's speaker. Is this a sign? Jumping back over to Lawrence and Condola, we see that Condola is feeding baby Elijah some squash and carrots. Lawrence has had his own experience with baby Elijah in feeding, so he suggests the choo-choo train mode of feeding. Condola's a little skeptical, but he demonstrates and it works. And it also shows just how much Lawrence has kind of grown into his role as a dad. You know, he's become comfortable, he's made, some strides, and he's been able to really connect with his son, and that's so, so important. And then on top of that, he and Candola, as I mentioned, have a really effective co-parenting relationship. We are in this together. There's no reason for us to be coming at each other. Like, we are here just to make sure that our son is in a good space. And if we're in a good space, he'll definitely be in a good space. So I was really happy to see that. And then to add to the moment, Candola tells Lawrence that he's a really good dad. You can see on his face that he's just like, wow. Thank you. And once again, it just shows the massive progress and strides that they have made in that relationship. And that's totally what I've been waiting for ever since we saw that third episode. So, all here for it. Back at Issa's, we are still playing questions in a hat. And one question in particular, which is quite messy, is asking which of each other's exes would they sleep with. I was like, like, that's a real touchy question. But as far as Tiffany and Kelly are concerned, Daniel, it's a no-brainer. And as soon as they said that, I was like, man, I miss my boy Daniel. I thought Daniel was cool. I thought he was an interesting character. I loved the chemistry that he had with Issa. And let's be honest, their chemistry was significantly better than the chemistry she had with Lawrence. I'm sorry, that's just how I feel. And then Nathan, please. But they threw my boy out like yesterday's trash, so what can you do?
Hi, Daniel.
Issa finally lets everyone know about her running into Lawrence and Condola at the hospital. She says she's happy they're back together and she shouldn't really be surprised by that. But still, she was really hoping to get some kind of closure with Lawrence. And then we see Kelly and Tiffany kind of looking at each other like, So of course, they decide to fill Issa in. And they're like, look, they were definitely at Simone's birthday party. And if that whole situation was any indication, they are not in a good place right now. And I think Issa understands that she avoided something really, really messy, but she still feels guilty about the way things ended, and she wasn't sure if she needed to reach out when his son was born, and she's just very conflicted about the whole thing, which is really not surprising. Molly tells Issa, hey, you made the right choice. But then Tiffany jumps in and she's like, Just because something is the smart choice doesn't mean it's the right choice. Kelly feels like Issa's decision was smart and right, but of course, Issa still very much conflicted. Then we see the ladies getting ready for their dinner reservation. Issa returns some earrings that she had been holding on to and she gives them back to Tiffany. And when Issa returns those earrings, they realize, oh, it's been literally 3 months since the last time we hung out together. So naturally, it makes her emotional and they come together for a big group hug, which is quickly disrupted when Tiffany drops a bombshell. She and Derek might be moving to Denver. They're like, what? Like, they are like totally shocked, totally taken aback, and you can tell that Tiffany isn't too happy about it either. Tiffany explains that Derek has recently got a job offer. The money would go a long way. There's family there. It would be a really ideal situation. But then, this is her core friend group. What would it be like then to suddenly move away and not have that anymore? Oh, and man, I really, really felt this one. This hit a little too close to home for me because this same exact scenario happened to me and my friends. I felt like we were just starting to hang out again with everything that happened with 2020 and coming out of, that year and making our way through 2021. And it felt like it was the beginning of us all kind of clicking and we're going to hang out and we're going to do more and just kind of like continuing to bond as a friend group. And then these two significant friends in our group they end up moving. It was a great opportunity. It was their hometown. Like, it was the ideal situation, much like this, but it was just like, oh my gosh, like we literally just had the chance to start hanging out again, and now you're gone. So I could totally relate, and I know it wasn't easy for them either, but yeah, this was a rough one. I was like, oh, that's a little too relatable to me right now. But Tiffany is afraid. She's like, what if I have more kids? And what if I get depressed again? She's just really, really fearful of what could happen. And they're like, girl, we will jump on a plane and we will be there for you. Like, this doesn't change anything. And I was so happy to see them reassure her like that. They're like, look, don't worry about it. Yes, it's not an easy situation, but we are friends. We are here for you, down for you, no matter what. And instead of going to their dinner reservation, they decide, you know what? Let's just keep chilling, hanging out, drinking, having a good time. And honestly, from the beginning, I knew that was going to happen. When Issa kept saying, like, don't forget the reservation, I'm like, they're not going to go to the reservation. And it's like that when you hang out with friends. It's like you have this plan, and it's like, oh, we're going to do this and this. And then sometimes it's like, no, we just going to chill. And that's the whole theme here. And a lot of times doing that, that's when you have the best time, when there is no plan and you're just going with the flow. So I really love that, and I can totally relate to that too. And then jumping back over to Candola and Lawrence again, Lawrence lets Candola know that he's so happy that they were able to work things out because Elijah is the best thing that ever happened to him. Candola is happy to hear that, and she decides to open up and let him know that at one point she even considered doing the obvious. You can kind of see the pain in her eyes when she says that. And then you can also see the guilt in Lawrence's face, realizing that, kind of realizing like, hey, I didn't do anything to help this situation. I had you in a place where you literally were going to be rid of our son and we would have never been able to experience this together, So he actually takes responsibility for that. And he's like, you know what? I did not handle that the right way. I'm sorry for putting you through that. That was on me. I was a jerk and I was wrong and you shouldn't have had to go through that. And Candola also says like, hey, I don't want you to be miserable. I don't want you to feel like you got stuck in this situation. He's like, no, I don't feel that way. And she's like, good, because I really want you to be happy. And he's like, yeah, I want the same for you. And I love that. And the reason why I love this scene is that that has nothing to do with romance necessarily. I have a feeling some people were like, oh, well, maybe they're going to get back together. No, and they don't need to. I think the fact that they have this solid and platonic co-parenting relationship is awesome. And I don't think it needs to be complicated with anything else. And I also think that it just makes their relationship all the more healthy because it's like, hey, I want the best for you. You want the best for me. And together we want the best for our son. So it's like, that is perfect. So I low-key was kind of like tearing up like, man, like it's just the positivity, just the hope of that situation, just the beauty of that coming together. It really, really touched me. So I was so, so happy to see that. And then jumping back over to the get together, we have Issa, Tiffany, Molly, and Kelly out on the balcony. And I was like, clearly, this is a little homage to Waiting to Exhale. Like they were dancing and then, chilling and smoking. And then they were trying to call people. I was like, yeah, this is Waiting to Exhale all the way. Issa figures it's time for Molly to officially kick things off with Torian. So she and the ladies decide to help Molly come up with the right text. But as Kelly said, there's some power to the game that they're playing. And in keeping with that, before Molly can even send the text, Dro is calling her. I was like, oh, not Dro. Their situation was some next level mess. I was like, oh no, please. And it's just so funny. Life is like that. It's just like when you are in the midst of something good and you're moving on, then it's like, here I am from the past to destroy everything. So I was like, oh no, I have a feeling we're going to see Dro, and I don't know how I'm going to feel about that. But for now, Molly's like, look, I don't have any time for that right now. And so now Issa is inspired to call Lawrence. And Molly's like, okay, listen, you are drunk. You are not thinking clearly. So if you wake up tomorrow and you're feeling sober and you want to still call him, fine. But don't do it like this because you will surely regret it. So the rest of the evening goes well, as we can see. And in the morning, the ladies leave, and Issa's looking around the apartment like, ooh. And see, it's always fun when you're in the middle of the hangout and, drinking or eating food or playing games or whatever it is. It's always fun at that point. But then when everyone leaves, you got to clean up. It's like, ooh, back to reality. You guys know how I feel about Nathan and Issa. So to make a long story short, they have a conversation. Nathan admits that he loves her. Issa lets him know that she loves him too. He was too afraid to say it, but he loves her and he wants to let her know. I don't even have to say it. So with that very unexpected boost to her morning, Issa begins cleaning when all of a sudden her phone starts to buzz. And who was calling? None other than Lawrence. I mean, listen, I knew it was coming. We all knew it was coming. But man, how's that for timing? And that closes out episode 7, Chillin'. Okay? I thought this was a really solid episode. It was so relatable and so funny. I love not only seeing the ladies get together and hang out and have fun, because that's always been a central part of Insecure that I've enjoyed, just the core friendship group. Kelly, Tiffany, Molly, Issa, and how they all interact together. But then on the flip side, we got some huge progress with Candola and Lawrence, and that low-key was even better than what we got with the rest of the ladies. And so I really appreciated seeing those dynamics here, just kind of like seeing where everyone is. And it just felt more like Insecure to me. Not necessarily last episode, but the 2 episodes before last. I just felt like they were very dry, very fillerish, kind of pointless, honestly. And I felt like with the last episode, and especially with this one, it's like, okay, this feels a lot more like what I'm used to. So it gives me a lot more hope that this last half of the season, as I mentioned before, will be a lot better than this first half, because I ain't really been feeling it. But I'm really interested in seeing how this is going to go. Of course, we knew that Issa and Lawrence weren't over. And then we have complications with Tiffany and moving with Derek. And is this finally closure for Lawrence and Condola? I'm pretty sure it is. But this show likes to throw all kind of curveballs at you. There's Molly and Torian. There's a lot still going on. And there are still 3 more episodes from this one. So naturally, I cannot wait to see how that is all going to play out. So, once again, this is D, Movieman, signing off. And I'll see you at the movie.